Dekule Godi.
It's still be on the beat.
NinjaFlavor.com.
Ojelale, Bosheluru o, ma ba ẹ lọ.
Beautiful people, this is your girl Jaden. It's another interesting time on my YouTube channel, Jaden Uche. Please continue to watch and share and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope it's going to be another opportunity to get empowered, enriched, and to continue on our journey of growth and of development. Today, I'm sure many of you will be wondering what we're going to talk about, but I want us to go back to the conversation we already started concerning depression and what the things we should do to help one another, to help family. Really grateful, and I've said it again and again, I need your support to keep this passion going. And what's the use if I make these videos and they are not seen, they are not watched, they are not shared? So thank you for all your support. Last time we had a video on depression that was well received. It was helpful to a lot of people out there. People have come back to me and said, Jaden, thank you. This is very interesting. It was useful for me. It was useful for my friend. It was useful for my family. And those are the things that keep me going. You know, when you know that, yes, these things are touching lives, they're empowering people, they're impacting on our lives. And I mean, what more can we ask for? That's the ultimate reward as far as I'm concerned. So because of that, I am very keen I want to talk about the last part of those things we can do. Remember, we talked about depression in our first video, and then I came back with the second video, which was a continuation of the tips, the things you can do to support yourself, to support your friends, and to support your family. But also, it's important that we emphasize the roles, the lifestyle we live, play as far as depression is concerned. There are things, and just as a quick mention, I remember saying that there are different stages of depression, but at every stage, it's always important for you to know what to expect, to know what to do, to know what is coming. But by all means, seek a professional help when you have to, you know. Speak to your doctor, speak to your psychiatrist. But I feel that overall, knowing what is going on, understanding what is happening with you, with your body, mentally, physically, and, you know, every other part of your environment, it's going to be an added advantage. It's a win-win for us when we recognize what is going on, when we understand what we're dealing with, and also recognize that it's okay for us to talk about these things. My greatest ambition with these videos and conversations around mental health is just so that people would understand. You know, we should kill stigmatization. People should be sensitized. Everyone should be free to talk about, oh, I had depression last week. This was what I did. So that way another person going through the same thing would be empowered, will not feel ashamed to talk about it. So if you recall, when we talked about depression, there are a few things, I mean, the first video on depression, there are a few things we identified as some of the symptoms. We talked about social isolation. We talked about low appetite, or in some cases, people would want to eat more. We talked about lack of sleep. We talked about lack of concentration. You know, we talked about generally being unhappy. So these are the things you would commonly expect and see in people who have undergo depression. So we started off in the second video, actually in the first video, by telling us how huge the mind is, how important it is that we take control of our mind. We've taken hold of our minds. We understand that depression is okay. We understand the triggers. I talked about the triggers, And I talked about things we can do. I talked about connecting with the higher force. But when you're low in mood, when you're depressed, you want to connect to that force. You want to reassure yourself that you're not in this race alone. You're a sheep. You want to remind yourself that there is an ultimate shepherd somewhere who doesn't count your sins, who doesn't count your faults, who doesn't judge you, who doesn't get tired of you coming again and again and again. He's not a man, he's not a woman, he is God. He is always there to cheer you up. That's when you want to focus on his promise. He knew you even before you were born. He said it in his words. I called you by your name. So that's also very important. And then I talked about the affirmatives, positive affirmations we make. Do not surround yourself with negative people when you're dealing with depression, because the environment we live in, the people we associate with, whether we like it or not, we tend to become like them. So if you're surrounded by naysayers, if you're surrounded by never do wells, if you're surrounded by people who will rub it in, make sure it pains you really well, remind you the origin, remind you there's no way out, that is when you need to also detox your environment. So now we're going back to our lifestyle. There are things we do that would impact on our lifestyle, bearing in mind also some of the symptoms. Social isolation, which means when people are depressed, they tend to withdraw in their shells. They tend to be by themselves. They tend to socially isolate. They no longer want to associate with people. So if you're that person who has a friend or a family or a relative who would normally ring you up, who would normally knock on your door, who would normally make contact with you, and suddenly you don't hear from them, that's not when to begin to judge. Oh, she's become so pompous. Oh, she's become so XYZ. Oh, she no longer reaches out. Instead of judging, just pick up your phone. Hey, are you okay? Haven't seen you in a while. You never know. That person could be in a dark place. That person could be dealing with depression. Check on one another. Call one another. If that person would always be in church, if you don't see him or her, please reach out. Nothing much, just checking up on you to see how you're doing. That says a lot. That goes a long. That's it for social isolation. And yourself, when you understand you're going through depression, you might want to force yourself. You might want to push yourself. Get out of the house. Because when you're by yourself, the mind tends to, again, play a very fast one on us. That's when you begin to imagine the worst case scenario of every situation. So step out. Tidy yourself up. Self-care. For me, I find it very, very therapeutic. It's very healing. When you wake up in the morning, just run the bath, run the shower, whatever it is that you have and works for you. Just pamper yourself, That's when you want to go for a new hairstyle. That's when you can afford something new. Just to remind yourself that actually there are things working. It's not just negative. You can reach out for a friend. Can we go for a drink? You don't need to give out too much information. I'm not feeling too great. I'm not in a good place this time around. I feel a bit low. I don't really feel like being by myself. Do you mind? Can we go for a walk? These are self-help tools, things that we can do to help ourselves when we're depressed. And then we talk about the food we eat. This falls under the category of our lifestyles. There are some certain foods we eat that are not great for the body generally, let alone when we're depressed. We are what we eat. That's the truth. So when we are depressed, we don't want to be eating too much sugar. We don't want to be drinking fizzy. We don't want to be doing too much caffeine. That's not when we want to be eating processed food, all your burgers, your fries, your this, your that, ice cream, calories. All you're doing is making yourself pile on weight, 1, feel much lower, 2, and then eventually resent what you look like in the mirror. Because when you're depressed, remember that you're already low, you're already in a low place. That's not when you want to put on any extra pound on yourself, because when you look in the mirror, you see that reflection, and that would even make you feel worse than you were, because you don't like the person you're seeing in the mirror. And I have said that the mind, when we are not in a good place, the mind tends to see only the negatives. So imagine when you, for example, become depressed, you've grown huge appetite, comfort eating, and then you're piling on the wrong food, and then you're piling on these weights. When eventually you look at the mirror, you will even feel more depressed because you won't like the person you're seeing. That's not who you want to be. So we have to be mindful of, and obviously alcohol and smoking and whatever it is. That's not when to do all this. That's not when. If anything, that's when we have to be mindful of what goes in through our mouth. So food is very important. That's when you want to eat loads and loads of vegetables. That's when you want to drink, cleanse your system, drink water, make your juice if you have to. That's when you want to cleanse your system. That's when you want to purify. That's when you want to invest in what you eat. That's when you want to pay particular attention to the things that go through your mouth. Like I said earlier, we are what we eat. Make no mistake about that. So you want to invest more in healthy eating. You want to invest more in your smoothies. You want to invest more in raw food. You want to invest in fishes. You want to invest in fruits and salads and vegetables, And if you have to do carbs, because I understand that we need the energy from carbohydrates to move around, you make it very little, portion control, and be very aware of the tendency for you to eat more and the obvious implication. So I've talked about pampering yourselves. Men, go for your haircut, get yourself a new shirt, dress up, make it conscious. The women, do your makeup. That's when you want to explore a particular makeup style. Whatever it is, particular hairstyle, just do something new. You can get a haircut. You can color your hair if that works for you. Just do something different from the routine you've always had, because you're not in a good place. You want to distract yourself, one, but you also want to distract yourself with something that is positive. Because when you have a haircut, it's going to give you a new look. When you color your hair, it's going to give you a new look. When you cut your hair, for the men, when you do give yourself more attention when you're not feeling great, when you're depressed, because it will help elevate your mood. It will help get you off that dip. So that becomes another tool. And for the women, don't feel guilty. We know what parenting is. We know that people would always have their own version of what is right and what is wrong. Remember what I said. Do you? If you need to pay extra to have someone look after the kids, for you to go away and give yourself a break, by all means do that. If you need to go for a spa, if you need to go for girls out, if you need to organize some sort of outing with your girls, with your friends, with your relatives, with your colleagues at work, by all means. What we're trying to do here is to promote that self-care, that self-love, that self-validation that comes from knowing what you're going through, the efforts you're making, and obviously the fact that for you to give out love, you have to have it. For you to be the best mom, you have to be in a happy place. For you to be a good wife, you should be happy. You cannot love someone else when you feel low. You cannot care for people when you're not in a good place. So take out time. Spend money on yourself. Spend time on yourself. Go for your pedicure. Go for your manicure. Do not feel guilty. Spend your money if you have it. If you work hard and if you earn and if you've always supported others. Probably this is the time for you to get away. Book for holiday. It doesn't have to be abroad for some of us who are back home in Africa. Let someone else cook your food and serve you. Go to a good restaurant. Pay for your meals. It's okay. It's only one life and you are not in a good place. And even when you're in a good place, these are things we do that improve the quality of our lives. You will never have enough money. You will never have enough clothing. You will never have enough of anything in life. But what matters is the attitude, the mindset. Change your looks. Change your wardrobe. Go for something different. Pay no attention to nobody. Pay no attention to what anyone has to say. It's your life. It is you. Do you. This applies to everybody. You will give out better when you have. You will look after others when you've prioritized your own self-care and needs, you know. So when you're depressed, you want to pay attention to every little details, things that will make you happy, you know, and then it would eventually be okay. And obviously, there are certain activities we engage in. We have to get involved in any form of exercise. Exercise is good for so many reasons. When you exercise, you release happy hormones. You know, your body is happier, your mind is happy, you generally feel great. This is scientific. You know, your brain releases some of these healthy hormones, and before you know it, you feel lighter, you're glowing, you're happier, and you're in a better place. It might sound difficult when you're not in a good place and someone is even encouraging you to get up in the morning and go for an exercise. But guys, it doesn't have to be anything sophisticated. You don't need to go to the gym. If you can go to the gym, but you can take a walk. You can dance around in your house. I talked about listening to music and dancing in the house. You can move around. Aerobics. If you go to the gym and dance around, is aerobics. So you can on your music at home and dance to your music. Is also aerobics. The ultimate goal is that you're burning calories, you're releasing these happy hormones, and you're losing weight. So whichever way you look at it, guys, is a win-win for us. So exercise is fantastic. Walk, dance, cycle, whatever you can do that would help. Sport, anything you can do, just move. As long as you're moving, you know. Forget about depression. Don't remind yourself about the negatives. Tell yourself it's okay. Tell yourself you understand, you know, what is going on. And then there are so many things we can do with our hands. You can tidy up. That might be when you want to give your apartment a facelift. You know, you just want to do something different. You just want to remind yourself that life is beautiful. You know, you can overhaul your bed linens. You can change the position of your sofa in your living room. Just do something out of the routine. Change things around. The same way you give yourself a facelift, you can just go to your bedroom, open your wardrobe, take out stuff. There are old stuff in our wardrobe. Sometimes we keep them for years. If you don't use your certain clothes or clothing materials for a period of 1-2 years, you probably don't need them, depending on what they are. So you might want to look around you, remove some things, decluster, and allow something new to come in. When you decluster your environment, when you overhaul your environment, it's been proven scientifically that the brain also gets overhauled. Our mindset, it's like opening a window to your apartment or opening a window to your house. The same way you have a new dimension, a new perspective to life. So these are little things I find helpful. These are little things I am hoping would support you, would help you, help your family, help your friends, you know. So depression, guys, in conclusion, is that moment when you don't feel great, that moment when you feel sad, that moment when you're not happy. There are different triggers: loss, money issues, childbirth, bereavement. But when it comes, because it will always come, and the truth is everyone goes through depression. When we feel depressed and low, we need to embrace it. We don't need to think about suicide. We don't need to think about doing something that would harm us and harm the people we love and the people that love us. We want to think of ways to help ourselves. And this is what I'm hoping this series on depression would do for you, do for me, and do for our friends. So depression, like every other mental health, is common, is real. Forget about people and their pictures on Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat. Most people do not tell the true story. Most people go through difficulties, worries about money, worries about relationships, worries about family, worries about work. We have so many things we deal with and we cover up. So when you're by yourself, when you're in your house and you're flipping through, you're swiping through these pictures, don't say to yourself, oh, my world is terrible. Oh, look at these people, they are happy. Oh, this one is traveling around the world. Oh, I wish I'm this person. If only you know what that person is going through. Never wish to be anyone. Just pray and do what you can. Do your very best. Life gives everyone the same opportunity, even though circumstances might be different. But the ultimate thing is for you to recognize that it's a beautiful time to be alive. You have life, you're gifted, you're blessed. Be happy in yourself, trust your abilities, trust in God, trust in the universe, and live a positive life. Do not offend anyone knowingly. Do what you can and hope for the best. We all have issues. Everyone deals with issues. Everybody cries. But when we cry, how we deal with it is what matters. How we support one another. My friend, my sister should be able to call me up and say, oh, Jaden, I'm so depressed. I feel so low. I haven't had anything to eat for the last 2 days. And I'll say, you know what? I felt like that 2 months ago. I understand. It was a horrible experience. Dress up, I'm coming to pick you up. Let's go for a meal together. That's the conversation I want us to be having. That's the attitude I want us to be having about depression, about mental health in general. Let's not talk about it. Let's not, talk about it in a negative way. Let's not despise one another. Let's not stigmatize. Let's not laugh and mock people when they go through mental health issues, because it's as common as having a flu. It's as common as having, and it's part of life. Our body is divided into two: physical health and mental health, and each one impacts on the other. I've said that in a video already. So I hope this is useful to you. I hope this is beneficial to your family. It's always a pleasure and an honor, to come back to this channel and say one or two things. Is my own way of reaching out to people. It's my own way of serving, and I believe if you have positive outlook, if you have positive mindset, there's no way you watch any of these videos and you won't take out some. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for subscribing, for liking my videos, and for telling other people about my channel. It's been your girl here, Jaden. I look forward to seeing you in another video. Stay blessed. Bye now.